Well, boys, I haven't gone into a derby in thinking, in terms of Newcastle United with more trepidation. Lee, having seen what you saw last night, various setbacks, almost too many to mention. Newcastle-wise, how do you feel going into Sunday?
I'm extremely concerned. I think it's definitely the biggest derby probably since the playoff game in 1990. That was a top flight place, up for grabs then. Now there's one at stake. If Newcastle lose this one, then I definitely fear that they could make that drop into the Championship. And I hate to say it, but once Barton and Owen went off last night, I was looking around the pitch and I couldn't see anything that gave me any encouragement to say we can get out of this. 23 points, a lot of points to make up now, and we'll run out of games as well. And February on is the first game against Sunderland. So
yeah, I mean, this for me is the start of quite a tough running on paper, but the fact is I wouldn't back Newcastle to be any Premier League side right now. Just the total lack of momentum, total lack of leadership, lack of bodies, first and foremost, and I've got absolutely no confidence that they're going to address that properly before the transfer window closes on Tuesday, Luke.
You can't see it, can you? I mean, how long have they known they needed to strengthen the squad? I mean, they've known since the end of last season, not even the end of the last transfer window.
It's gone on for a few years,
and it's been going on. There just doesn't seem to be any movement. They seem to think that bringing in Peter Lovenkrantz on a free transfer to the end of the season counts as some sort of wonderful signing. I'm afraid it's not. The one thing when you looked at Newcastle's squad that you thought was the difference between them and the other teams was Michael Owen. Michael Owen's goals, you thought, well, no one else in that relegation battle's got someone like Michael Owen who's going to get you a goal every other game. He's now gone for 8 weeks, probably. They still haven't signed a left back, haven't signed a right back, haven't signed a creative midfielder. There's 4 or 5 days left. Unless they do something dramatic in the next 4 or 5 days, I'm like Lee, I'm beginning to get really concerned.
Exactly, you just can't see them making that sort of impact in the transfer market in this state of time. Well, we've had a little insight into sort of the goings on behind the scenes into what actually happens with transfers at Newcastle this week. Without going into it, it doesn't inspire confidence. They've moved too late in the market for the players they've needed since back end of last season. As Kevin Keegan pointed out, the back end of last season needed to invest massively. Haven't done that. Joe Kinnear talks about the credit crunch now. It's fine to say now that Mike Ashley's been affected by the credit crunch. We should have been told that earlier, rather than give the fans false promises about investment being made. Quite frankly, although it was luck, played its part last night. Owen and Barton went off, but Newcastle were only ever one injury away from an absolute catastrophe in this transfer window, and that injury was to a top goal scorer. Without Michael Owen, as you say, where are the goals going to come from? I just think it's an absolute shambles from start to finish, from top to bottom. And I dread to think defeat on Sunday, for me, could bring about absolute revolt on the terraces. I dread to think what the next home game attendance would be if they lose on Sunday, and I can see it happening because I think Sunderland are a side that could do Newcastle real
damage. They'll be rubbing their hands with glee. If you're a Sunderland fan today, tomorrow, building up to this derby, you're going to be thinking, right, we're going to go there, and we're going to be favourites. They're going to, they look like a club in disarray, and they want to put the boot in. I mean, this is great for them. If you're a Sunderland, you'll be like thinking, oh, great. Mind you, if they lose it, Sunderland, then they're going to be pretty sick, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the way Sunderland have got to approach it, it's a derby. As you say, they can put the boot in, but I think the way they've got to approach it is saying, look, 3 points here, and we are, quite a long way out of it.
6
we've got
points
a good
clear in
cushion.
Newcastle,
and in this league this season, 6 points is like 12, 15 points in any other season because it's been that tight. I just can't see Newcastle being able to handle the likes of Cece and Jones. If Cece and Jones get decent service, I can't see Newcastle keeping a clean sheet, and at the other end, I can't see Newcastle scoring many. Obviously, Martins might be back. Which Martins are we going to get? Are we going to get the Martins that is ruthless up front, or are we going to? I fear we get the Martins that's just trying too hard, trying to do everything himself, and turns out looking like
you're also pinning your hopes on a player like Mark Viduka to come back. How long is Mark Viduka going to stay fit? And Alan Smith, who hasn't and Alan Smith who hasn't stayed fit for.
Exactly.
Who hasn't scored a goal. Sorry, Mark Viduka hasn't stayed fit.
Exactly. Done nothing when he was fit. So why we should be pinning our hopes on him, I don't know.
I think he's got to go the other way. I think he's just got to put his faith in. He's got no other choice but to put his faith in people like Andy Carroll, Kazengala Walawa, players that want to play for the shirt. You know, it's a derby. The fans will give them every encouragement that they need, and I think they've got to throw them in at the deep end now because they've run out of options. I've got no faith in people like Cisco, £6 million, just thrown down the gutter. You know, that was half of the Milner money, wasn't it? And, and 10 went on Colaccini, and
it was pretty damning when Joe Kinnear says yesterday, I've got one fit striker, Andy Carroll, and he's got Cisco sitting on the bench who's got £5.6 million worth of striking talent.
Andy Carroll was what, 5th, 6th in the pecking order in the summer. You honestly couldn't make it up. I mean, if you looked back 9 months, I'm writing a piece this week. Look back 9 months to the last derby at Newcastle. Everything seemed to be moving forward slowly, albeit for Newcastle. You had Kevin Keegan in charge. You had a team that wanted to play for him, and now you've got an absolute shambles. There's no other description for it, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. And come Tuesday, if that transfer window, shuts, and Newcastle have lost a derby, and they haven't addressed the absolute fundamental failings in that squad, then I'm sorry, but Mike Ashley and Derek Lambius, who you're going to be talking to next week, touch wood, they deserve all they get in my book.
I hope they they honour that, and they do. No matter what happens, I hope you do get the chance.
Well, that would be my worry. I mean, derby defeat, nobody through the transfer window. Are they going to turn up?
Before we send everyone suicidal watching this video, I mean, I guess the flip side, Lee, is that if they win the derby in the state that they're in, that could maybe be the little catalyst, the little spark that gives them that little bit of self-belief again. And as you say, if the young kids come into the team, they're part of this derby victory, that could be a little bit of a tonic, couldn't it?
Well, I see what you're saying. There's two ways looking at that, though, because the other side of it is if they do win, then it perhaps papers over the cracks as well, and that leaves Newcastle in a potentially more dangerous position if people get too carried away with it. But my overall fear is that, people mention Leeds United, Man City, Nottingham Forest, all these teams that have gone down, is not just going down this season, but going down the next season as well, because beneath the first team, the young kids in the reserves, they're not even ready for the reserves, and they're just too raw, and they'll not be able to survive. That's all they'll have to go in the Championship, because all the stars will go. They'll be stuck with these players. They won't have much money to bring in, and Championship's very difficult, as teams like Southampton will tell you, Charlton Athletic, you know what I mean? So League One, you mentioned with suicidal, you know what I mean? To go down 2 divisions is not
unthinkable now, unfortunately.
They have to stay up, don't they? They have to stay up. That's the bottom line. This season, no matter how they do it, whether it's scrape on the last day of the season, they stay up on goal difference, they stay up on goals scored, whatever it is, they've got to stay up this season.
But this season's seen the unthinkable happen so many times. KK walking out again in the circumstances was just incredible. The fact that he walked out maybe wasn't a huge surprise to people. The reason why he did it and the circumstances behind it, that was unthinkable. Shay Given being so hacked off. This is the most loyal servant Newcastle got. So hacked off that he actually moves to a club that is only one place above Newcastle in the Comedy League. The fact that he actually goes to Manchester City, who themselves, are going through a bit of a nightmare in terms of PR, got no hope of winning anything this season, and yet no one is questioning his logic in leaving.
He's had no criticism from fans at all.
No, exactly. I mean, he'll leave a hero. It just says everything for me.